Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week.
Okay, I don't know if it did it or not. Anyway, it's
we're gonna learn together here.
Yeah. So what I want to do is we figure we put out anywhere from 4 to 6 podcast episodes a month, right? And every month we do a roundup.
Yeah.
But there's like commonalities in what we talk about, and then every podcast has something unique about it too. But if you're trying to learn about retail, sifting through
which podcast
to find 5 minutes of insight isn't exactly useful time, right? So what I'm hoping is that with this tool, we can actually like start to, index a little bit. So if someone's like, hey, listen, I want to dial in because I actually I get the security stuff, but I want to learn about AI implementation.
Right.
Where do I find it? Right. Like which episode? Roughly where, right? Right now we'd be like, you got to go listen to Mike Nunn. You got to listen to the whole thing. But
try to find that one nugget or that one thing.
He said something interesting. I got to go find it, right? So
he only said one interesting thing. That's the key. So you got to try to find it where that.
Well, then it's
one thing is.
Right? Yeah. But then it's kind of neat too because it helps you track some trends, right? Because at the end of the year, you can go, listen, like out of 52 episodes, 48 of our guests actually talked about what, like the same thing, right? Yeah. So there's some interesting things we can do with it. So I'm hoping the AI stuff will be good for that.
Beyond just transcribing, the other things that a GPT can do or AI can do is you feed all of the transcripts into an AI engine at the end of the year and go summarize this into the 6 main categories, and it'll just do it, and you don't have to think about it, and it'll do an okay job. So if not a good job. So powerful stuff. Yeah,
it's I love that you're coming back on because we had a couple of interesting guests. So one he's a friend of mine and he works for Mark Anthony right now, but he's kind of worked a bunch of different places. His name's Sam.
Okay.
And Sam's kind of like, so he's into AI right now and he's kind of like into data science and all that stuff. But I had said to him, he had said to me probably 8 months ago, should I come on the show? I can talk about AI. And I said, our guys are not ready for that, right? Like this is not, we're not, I think Fortune 100s are sort of ready to talk about this stuff. Fortune 500s are not quite ready. The beginning 100, which is what we are. Like 8 months ago, I was like, yeah, what? Like, what are you talking about? Right. Like, and so he came on, but we feel like, I had to slow him. Like we slowed him right down to a crawl. And even then it was like, Sam.
The big challenge with AI right now is it's still very much in its infancy, and I by no means am I going to claim to be an AI expert. I'll call myself an AI sponge, trying to absorb everything I can to understand it. Because do I think it's going away? No. Is it going to get better? Yes. Is it going to have more impact? Yes. So the more I think anybody, especially from a business standpoint, and I'll happily share some of the things we're doing at TLC Solutions with it, but the more that any business, any professional can understand how AI can support them, and the way we frame it at TLC is really take out the less value-added work to allow you to have more time to do the value-added work, is a way that we approach it. It's a great tool. How do you leverage that? How do you understand it more? What are the big companies doing? What are the tools you just talked about, Phil? Right? Something that can take notes for you so you never have to take notes again, because writing those notes out and then having to then type them up and save them and then read back through them at some later date to try summarize them all. Like, you don't need to do that anymore. It's not needed. AI has that ability.
I think the other part of this, that the AI bit is really interesting, but I also think that the part that is kind of out of everyone's grasp, right? If you think about, like what precipitated this first conversation, right? Like it's pretty timely because like less than a month ago, London Drugs had this like really serious thing happen, right?
They're still down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, kind of knocked it on its ass. But I think like what I think people probably don't get is when do you need to be looking around to figure out what's secure and what's not secure? Do you know what I mean? Like ChatGPT's on the web.
Yeah.
You use cloud services for so many things, right?
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you start going like, hey, there's this, kind of AI forecasting tool. Let me go chuck my stuff into this. Let me load it into it like a web file and see what happens, right? You're kind of going, guys, like,
well, there's
yeah,
two sides to that too. There's that side, Mike, but also I don't know how much, I'm sure you know everything, but I'm trying to figure out even the other side.
Working on it.
Well, so we use Facebook and we use Instagram. We post all our lovely pictures, and you don't realize that at that point, when you start posting the pictures are really no longer yours in a lot of ways. Ultimately, they're not yours.
They're in the public domain. Yep.
Right. So what happens even with these tools as you save them to clouds and other people's platforms, and you're using their software and their AI to generate what you like? I guess what him and I were both trying to think, we were all over the place the other day because we're thinking, well, fuck, like, what do we actually still own or not own? And how safe is it? No matter, that's great that they think it's safe up there, but London thought they were pretty safe too.
And London's a great example because I have no doubt they had great systems. I have no doubt that they had really solid layers of protection in place.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, and here's the reality. It's interesting timing for the podcast today and just talking about this in general. I put a post out on LinkedIn today because I'm trying to absorb everything I can cybersecurity. We have a fabulous team at TLC Solutions looking after this stuff for our clients, but still it's ever evolving, it's ever changing. So especially AI and cybersecurity, there's always more to learn. So I was in a cybersecurity webinar this morning, and it just absolutely dawned on me, and this hopefully answers your question. There's no such thing as preventing a cyber attack. At some point, something will get in.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as 100% prevention. So all you can, and all any business can really do, is put layers of protection in place. And there's extreme layers of protection and there's minimal layers of protection. And the only difference is how much is that attack going to cost you? That's all it comes down to. And if you have minimal layers in place, it could cost you your business, because to this day, the average, and depending on what website you look at, the average cost of a cyber attack is somewhere between $1 and $2 million. And it's going to vary.
That's it. They're done.
Bingo. And this webinar I was in this morning, it said 60% of attacks on small and medium businesses puts the business under, because not every business has the cash reserves to pay a company like TLC Solutions or any IT company or MSSP to come in and remediate the damage and to clean it up and put the layers in place. It's not cheap. So ultimately, every business has to look at their own risk aversion and say, what would I rather do? Roll the dice and hope I don't get attacked, and if I do, it's not all that bad. Or would I rather do some investment up front and having some layers of protection and maybe a bit better antivirus system in place? And that's up to the business, and that's not up to me to judge. It's ultimately up to that business owner. What dice would you like to roll? And it's not an easy answer, because it is up to every business to decide for themselves. But there's definitely some strong layers of protection, and it can be tailored to the business. There's not a one size fits all here, but there's things that can be put in place to make it so that if you are attacked, at least the damage and the loss is small or smaller.
Mitigated, right? Like hopefully.
Mitigated. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
100%, right?
I wonder sometimes, though, especially because, well, he's almost my age. You're probably way younger. But, you also got, like, I think when we were growing up, even, like, the odds of you getting robbed, quite frankly, are probably less than you getting cyber attacked sometime in your life.
All right. Yeah.
Right? but we all buy house insurance.
Yeah.
Content insurance for most people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cost, but you know what I mean? But it's not something you overthink, and you probably should, because you're probably not buying the right stuff.
Fire
but
insurance,
like
flood insurance, earthquake insurance.
100%, like we're all over it.
Yeah.
But when something like this, when you think of what they can actually come in and take from you, like literally, to your point, a $1, $2, $3 million business could be shut down. You could lose your livelihood.
But do you buy cyber liability insurance?
I don't. That's what I'm asking, because I know we obviously know
I got that right.
And this is what they do.
Is that really what it is? Cyber,
you can just call it cyber insurance, but pretty much every insurance provider in this day and age will offer cyber insurance for their clients. We partner with a couple insurance partners at TLC, Reliance Insurance, great company, Acera Insurance, working with them right now as well. They both offer their version of cyber insurance. And in my opinion, in this day and age, my humble opinion, it's a must-have. And even just applying for cyber insurance is going to open a business's eyes to say, well, here's the things that they're going to want in place in order to insure you.
100%.
And that will, backups, interesting. I wonder what my backups are like. I should put backups in. Cyber training. We don't offer any phishing or cyber training to our staff. And more cyber insurance providers are saying you have to provide at minimum phishing training to your staff. There's a company, I shall remain unnamed, I was just told the other day they got phished, and emails went out to all of their clients, and their clients started responding to all of these requests to transfer money and pay their invoices to a new bank account. And a bunch of clients started transferring and paying their bills to the new bank account, and money's gone. Right. So did all of those people, did that company, did they have cyber insurance to protect that loss? It happens in a heartbeat, and it's the click of a button, and it's all the time. It's daily. These attacks are happening, or at least the attempts. It's just, it doesn't get in the news, and that's the toughest part, the most frustrating part.
I think that's why we wanted to have you back on too, was because I think it is important. And when you even look at the insurance, like you're saying, is you can't get content in your insurance of your house if you don't have locks on your doors.
Correct.
You can't have it if you don't have windows in the house.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta participate in. And I think this is the part people don't understand. I'm going to cyber insurance. Well, that's great, but if your system is a piece of shit, and if I can get in, God, what are you insuring for? Do you know what I mean? Like that, you're dead before you start. So again, understanding, okay, what are the locks? Like, I know we talked a little bit last time. I guess what bothered me with this time is because the London thing was a lot closer to home, obviously, right?
Of course, 100%.
And and there's things that I worry about now. I've been gone 8 years. I hope to God my data isn't part of that mess, because after 8 years, should you have my data?
Yeah.
Those are other questions.
There are so many.
I get very agitated with this because I push this across anybody. Because as a company, how long do you want to hang on to my SIN or whatever it is that you
it almost touches other things, right? Because like companies, like what was really interesting about having you is you're almost at the nexus of a whole bunch of these things. So what I really love, Kenny and I talked about this other day, and then once I finish this, I'll do an intro because we're like 15 minutes in and nobody, so we talked to Sam, who's this AI guy, and then we had talked to Nimesh, who is into data, right? Like his whole world is data hygiene, data cleansing,
love data,
that sort of thing. And then we also talked to Steve Rad, whose world is all about AI entertainment. But they all kind of like circle the same thing, which is, if you've got the right infrastructure in place, if you're kind of looking at this stuff in the right way, you could be set up to do some really cool things, and you could be set up to take some really cool risks as well. But if you don't, it's not so cool, right? Like you shut down for a week and a half. You are worried now. You have employees gone 8 years worried whether they cleansed your data, right? Because under proper data hygiene policy, you shouldn't be in there. That you might be in an archive somewhere, Kenny, but not in. But
it better be in an archive way outside of the realm of what they're in now.
Yeah,
right?
But
and you don't know unless you know somebody to ask, because what information was taken, obviously in the news, we all learned that some employee information was taken. I think they were paying for credit protection or something. I don't want to misspeak, but I know that they were doing something to help protect.
They were offering some credit monitoring.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So stuff. Before we get too far, we have Mike Nunn on. He is the CEO of TLC Solutions. We've had him on before. And what prompted this was, we're recording this June 18th. We're going to get this out fairly quickly because this is pretty timely. But, literally a month ago, we were talking about London Drugs and how basically, they shut down operations, right? Like they couldn't do anything. They couldn't sell things online. They had stores closed for almost a week. There was just a ton of stuff, and they're really not, as Kenny said, they're really not out of the mess. So we thought, if we didn't scare the crap out of you last time Mike was on,
Mike should scare the shit out of you.
I apologize.
But we'll bring it back. But I do think because in our way and in our fashion, Mike is really kicking off how you should set yourself up properly so that when you get to the episodes with Sam, who talks about AI, that honestly, we were like, Sam, stop talking for a minute. Like, just slow down, right? So that there's Sam in there, and then there was, and then there was Steve Rad, who
he's making people.
Steve's, so, but in order to get to those cool things, what you need to do are things that are not so cool, but really, really, really need to get done, right? So we thought Mike is the guy. We need to bring Mike back so he can talk about some of this stuff.
Tell us how to protect the house, protect the contents. Where are we allowed to go? Where do you not want us to go?
Listen. The first thing I think that probably less than a third, a quarter, 10% of maybe 10% of our audience might know is that you should have cyber insurance, right?
Like in this day and age,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, very important in this day and age. And I think it's a good jumping off point just to say the technology that protected you from Trojan horse viruses and some of the common phrases that people may know from years ago. The technology needs to advance with the ability and the skill and the AI-driven cyber criminals that are rapidly advancing their ability to attack. And that stack is a term we'll use in the IT industry. That stack that you were using 5 years ago to protect your business, or maybe more, I'm not too sure. It's probably not good enough anymore. It's probably not. Now, maybe that tool is leveling up. Maybe you're updating. Maybe there's great things that businesses can do, and kudos to the companies that are staying ahead of the times and leveling up. But it's advancing so fast, the ability of threat actors to attack from a cyber standpoint, whether that's phishing or ransomware, whatever it might be. There's lots of different types of cyber attacks. It's growing and it's increasing so quickly. You need to make sure, any business needs to make sure that their defense, their preventative measures, is staying up to date. And as we talked about, I think before we hit record, it's a dice roll if you're not. And does it mean you're going to have to pay probably a little more? Potentially, yes. Does it mean cyber insurance is something that you should consider? Yes, very much so. Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah.
So because you do this is sort of your living, et cetera, is, so at what stage, because we got people all over the world on listening to us, like all over the place in terms of sizing. We got people that it's basically idea, and we're talking to a designer, to doing $15 or $20 million in business. Right. Like, when am I phoning you to say, listen, I don't know what am I phoning you for? Hey, Mike, listen, help me. I don't know what I want. What am I supposed to do?
What do I got to do to help me out? There's lots of places to start. There's multiple layers of protection from a cybersecurity standpoint. I'm going to do my best. I don't want to use terms. One of the things that I love about TLC is we're big believers in technology. We deliver technology. And a lot of that means I don't want to use words and phrases and terminology that no one's going to get. So I'll do my best to try.
You said you're talking to me.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes it easy. Remember, talking to Kenny.
Dumb it down.
Exactly. Got to make it fair. Well, and for me too, like, hey, let's be real. My background is not IT. My background is not tech. It's not computer science. It's an absolute blast running this amazing company. We have amazing team members who know all this stuff infinitely more and better than I do, which is fantastic. But happy to chat about it, happy to talk about it. So it depends on the business. There's going to be some basics around antivirus, around backups, around how data is stored and where it's stored, and password protection. And I'll try not to get too complicated, but multi-factor authentication. I don't know if you've heard of that, two-factor or multi-factor.
That's when they ping me to say,
bingo. Yeah.
Add the numbers in.
And enter this code because we want to make sure it's you, right? It seems silly, and it adds.
I love that thing.
It adds a few seconds to your login, and a lot of people think about it as an inconvenience, but the extra help or the extra protection that gives, I can't quantify that, but it's another layer of protection. That's all it is. And the more layers that any business can have, and if you're starting out and you're a 2-person company, have a good antivirus and back up your data, right? At a basic level, and don't have that backup connected to your system. It could be as simple as an external drive. If you're a small 1-person solopreneur, plug that drive in, unplug it, run your antivirus before and after, just basic little things. And then all of next level steps that can be taken. You can work with a company like TLC, and we can help work with you on what good solutions or good systems might be. And when it comes to cyber insurance, reaching out to an Acera Insurance or Reliance Insurance or whomever, and asking them about cyber insurance and what does that take, and what systems should you have in place. So those are just some basic at any size company, some basics that anybody can think about.
So 2 things come out of that part, and I don't know if you'll have to kind of keep me on track too, because I literally think this could go 8 ways to Sunday.
I love it. We'll do it. I'm good with that.
A little company, you start from scratch. The first thing you probably do is you go, the easiest thing and the dumbest thing to do, not the dumbest, the smartest and super simple thing to do is to go buy a cloud solution.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you don't know cloud, what I mean is I go, what do I need? I need an email address. So I'm going to go to Google, go give me a Google domain. So This Commerce Life or Old Growth Beverages, right? And then Kenny gets an email, I get an email, right? Like I pay for that. It's on the cloud. Am I safer, not as safe, or who knows?
What else can you do though?
No, but I think this is a common scenario, right? Like there are probably half to 3/4 of our audience going, this is where I start, right? Like
storing files
I don't know domains. We're going to chuck everything into a Google Drive. We're going to use Gmail. So does that make me safer, not as safe, or it's hard to tell.
I don't have, and I don't know off the top of my head the number of attacks on the cloud versus attacks on on-prem hardware. On-prem, short for on-premise. That's the big black box, the server that's sitting in a closet somewhere in your office.
AKA your laptop, if you're a solo.
AKA laptop, absolutely. Right? Still, all the basics apply. When your documents are stored in the cloud, there'll be some form of backup that's built into that cloud storage. Can you do more? Yes. Can you back up your email? Yes. There's email backing up platforms. We use something called Dropsuite at TLC Solutions to back up your email, because backing up email is different than backing up data in folders, wherever they may be. So again, it's tough for me to give a one-size-fits-all answer because cloud options are great, but do you have MFA turned on, right? Most mainstream cloud options, if not all, will have some form of MFA included.
That's the one we don't normally click to say, yeah, we'll take it.
Exactly. Well, that's a pain in the butt.
Skip to next time. Skip to next time. Skip to next time.
Well, because I think that leads to the second thing, right? Because the minute, so it's simple when all you got is email, but the minute you start working on files, right? You start transferring documents, right? You start using other applications. You got to pay for users, right? And most people go, you know what, we'll just set up like a marketing at whatever. Everybody has the same email address. But What I just heard you say is like MFA, multi-factor, right? Having it ping your phone is invaluable. So for most of these little guys, this becomes maybe the first moment that you kind of go, guys, like, don't chintz out on the users. You kind of need everyone to have their own user ID so they can log in and have MFA, right?
I would frame that as, if you've got a generic password and multiple people are accessing marketing dot something at gmail.com or something along those lines, and they're in absolute startup phase, I mean, that's fantastic. What is the risk if somebody hacks that email and they now have access to files and things that have been shared previously that are in that email, and now they send a fake invoice to the 2 clients that you've just landed as a startup business and say, hey, please pay my invoice, here's my new bank account, and all of a sudden, as a new business, do you have the ability to weather that? Data's gone, who knows what's gone, your client's perception, credibility, all of those things. And I say all this, the last thing I want is this to come across as scare tactics. It's unfortunately, in the world of cybersecurity, it's unfortunately reality. I hate being the bearer of bad news, but
but someone's got to be, because at the end of the day, Mike, is if you're not talking honestly about it and we're sugarcoating this, we're doing no service to anybody. Correct. Ask London how they feel right now.
Yeah.
Ask a whole bunch of other companies of those sides. How good do they feel after this?
Well, and it's good to bring up the London one again, because unfortunately, in the world of cybersecurity, I think this is what a lot of companies like TLC battle, is that most attacks never see the light of day as far as public knowledge and awareness. It's only when you hear about somebody like me or your IT team or your MSP or whomever that manages your cybersecurity for you, they're hopefully keeping you up to date. But you can't even necessarily find a lot of the attacks that we hear about happen all the time. They happen daily. And there's, to a degree, I feel a little of, well, it's not going to happen to me because it only happens where the recent ones that we all know about. London Drugs, the provincial government, and First Nations Health Authority were the 3 big ones in BC that have been attacked recently. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, they're huge. They're massive. Like, no one's going to come after me. And that is so far from true. Just under
I think
half.
It's the opposite to your point. If they go after them who have most likely, well, shit, at least you hope so for the government's sake, there are levels, I mean, we never know, right?
Yes.
But there are levels of security and there is money put into it.
Yeah. 100%.
You got to, you can, that's like saying, listen, they only rob banks because they're harder to get into. The reason they rob houses and shit, they're easy to get into. We're like the little house when we're talking about our little security systems, right? Of course they're going to attack us. It's easy.
I gave, in April, I gave a couple presentations to the Alberta Food Processors Association, and the key message is, what drives cyber criminals? And you ask the audience, why do they do what they do? And cut to the answer. It's money. They want the money. They're driven by getting your money. So they're looking at, to your point, Kenny, what's the lowest hanging fruit?
Low-lying fruit, baby.
It's the companies, unfortunately, who can't afford to be shut down. Right. London Drugs, due to size and scale, they could, even though they didn't want to, they could probably afford to be shut down for the time they needed to look after it, right? Yes. And to make sure their systems are in place. And that's fantastic. It's good for them. And applaud them. They probably, again, had good systems in place. But when it comes to small and medium businesses, can you afford to be down, not producing for a week or more?
You could be down for a month. You're a corner store. You're going to lose everybody.
If you don't have your data, if you don't have your information backed up, you're now having to rebuild all your data. Never mind ensure you've actually got the threat actor out of your system and everything is back to normal and all that had to be recreated. You bang, how long is that going to take? And depending on the size of your business, hey, I will tell you this, remediation. So for everybody, remediation, that's the work done to clean it up. Basically, the remediation is not cheap. You are paying the high skilled labor from a company like TLC, the ones that have the experience and knowledge ability to figure out where that threat actor got in, to close the doors, to plug the holes. You're paying by the hour for a high value person to clean it up. It's going to depend how long it takes that person to get it done, but it's not
It's not cheap.
It's not, oh, it's okay, it'll be a few grand. No, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I have no doubt, but I can't even guess the number that a London Drugs would have paid. It's big numbers. It really is.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean,
so I found a report. So there was a report put out by Comparatech, and they said in 2020, so this is 4 years ago, so it'd be
ancient.
So much more now, but 78% of Canadian companies experienced at least one cyber attack. And then of the 78%, 85% were their actual victims of cyber attacks. So basically, out of 78%, 85 of those guys actually, do you know what I mean? Like, that's crazy, that number. Like, so we've heard about like this much. We've heard about.
Well, we only hear about the big ones. To your point, we don't hear about all the little people that have gone belly up. Bingo. Or have been financially hurt brutally. And you're allowed to pitch on this show, Mike, especially you more than anybody. I'll tell you why I say that, though. Like, in all honesty,
I appreciate that.
You know what? Well, because the difference is you provide a service that I don't think people really understand, especially like, I'm not a techie, right? I don't mind the two-factor authentication. I personally don't mind having the number. I actually feel kind of good about it because it's mine.
Yep.
So I kind of at least know, okay, I think that's protecting me.
It's helping. It's definitely
it feels
helping.
like it. So it makes me feel. It feels like an extra lock on the door. It's a lock on the window that normally I wouldn't lock the window.
And he can't remember a single password.
You know what?
Literally, he can't remember.
We're not talking about that now. Stay off my password memory shit.
As long as it's not
passwords one more time, I'm going to kill somebody.
As long as it's not, if you ever get a chance, Google it. Most common passwords. As long as you're not on that list, as long as it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6,
no,
7,
I'm
8,
better
9,
than that. No, I
password
that's
1.
Probably why I forget
that's his luggage password, but not his computer password.
Okay.
And that's why probably I can't remember anything, and then I can't remember who stored it, what ones that I don't know what the hell I've done. So I'm resetting all the time.
Yeah.
And getting kicked out of systems and having to phone people.
Candidly, there's actually you could argue, Kenny, there's method to that madness. If you're always resetting your password,
probably not the worst idea.
Then your password's always getting changed. Now, you don't need to necessarily do that if you have a strong password, but there's good on you. It's an extra step. It's an extra layer. There you go.
I'm going to take that, even though it's not planned. It's just there's a whole set of back end issues that's caused that. But anyways, my point is that I think what people need to really understand, you can either spend into the 5, 6, 7 figures, or basically lose your house and your business, because that's going to happen. It's not a fear. That's fear my ass. That's reality. That's happening. Mm-hmm. Not to everybody, but even a $10,000 hit, 10 grand is 10 grand.
Yeah.
You call it whatever you want. If someone dropped 10 grand on the ground, you're picking it up.
Yeah.
So it's a good chunk of change. It's worth stopping for. And these are the things I think what people don't get is the reason we have people like you on and other people who do other services, because people need to understand that these things are out there. The cost to talk to you now is so much less the cost I have panicking, calling you, can you help me?
I think about
when the bill's going to run.
I was a young kid. My parents, New Westminster, born and raised here in British Columbia. Their house got broken into. Horrible event. I was really young, ransacked the house, took a bunch of stuff. Anyways, you put the alarm in after the break-in.
Well, when you should put it in, you lock the doors after someone got in.
Yeah. When do you put the alarm in, right? And it's a great question, and that's the dice roll.
Right.
That's what every business owner and business leader needs to ask themselves. And am I going to try weather a storm of an attack? And to your point earlier on, Kenny, we have earthquake insurance and fire insurance and flood insurance and all of these other insurances, and it's my opinion, the odds of getting a cyber attack are significantly higher than a flood, fire, or earthquake. Is my opinion. Now I could be way off, and people can have different opinions.
Catastrophic.
That's just my opinion on that.
But the point is, Mike, but they're just as catastrophic potentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the part that I don't understand. It doesn't sound as bad as cyber attack. It's a computer, but when they get into your accounts, they get into all your data. They get into, how much fucking trouble can they cause for you? Well, here's shit all over. Nobody knows it's you. Like, just your reputation, like everything.
Here's a common known fact in the cybersecurity world, that when somebody gets into your system, into your network, into your computer, into your server, into your cloud, whatever, they're going to probably spend between 200 and 300 days somewhere in there, seeing what they can gather, seeing what they can collect, seeing how far they can go.
That's how long they're in?
Yeah, doing little tiny things to see if they get detected as they're gathering information. And then once they think they've gotten as far as they can, they've probably got to your backups, they've done everything that they can, then they do something to make themselves known. In the webinar I was in this morning, put on by the ASCII Group and Dell Technologies, the stat that they shared is 277 days is the average time before a threat is identified.
Oh my!
So that means
really that long?
That long, right? And they are taking
nobody
their time.
notices.
Nobody notices.
So like even right now, who knows? As I'm looking at this laptop having a small coronary.
And I've heard and just to be candid and to share, I've heard various numbers on how long. I've heard everything from 150 days to down around 100 days, and this is one of the higher ones that I've heard. But that's why I say anywhere between 100 and 300 days is the average that threat actor is probably going to be poking around, seeing how far they can go, capturing admin passwords and looking at different files and trying to break permissions and whatever they're trying to do to get as far and as deep as they can so that they can cause enough damage so that they can say, pay me the ransom or else. And to cause a big enough mess. Who knows how long the threat actor was in London Drugs system? Who knows? No one knows. I don't know. Nobody knows. Before they were able to do enough damage that it caused London Drugs to be shut down completely for a period of time. And eventually,
I didn't realize it was. I thought they would be in for like a couple. It was just like a couple hours kind of thing. Like
no,
they go and just fuck. So they're snooping around for that long, and nobody's seen him. Like,
and he's not going to sleep tonight.
No, I'm not going to sleep tonight. I do worry about this because I seriously, because
it's reality. This is,
and I don't know what I'm looking for, Phil. Like, and you're no help. You're in Mississauga. What the hell good are you for me?
He's ahead of it. Time zone. He's ahead of us. He's going to catch it first.
Mamma mia.
No, that's not a thing. Please don't take that seriously.
It's not a thing.
It's not a thing.
No, I do. I worry about small companies because, listen, a quarter point in interest a couple weeks ago is a big deal for small business because most run on lines of credit. So it does add up. But that was celebrated as a big that was a bigger thing than worrying about shit like this. This stuff, the quarter point ain't going to make or break the company.
Well, and let's be real. I love the food industry. Absolutely love the food industry. So many great brands, so many great products, especially on the small and medium size.
Yeah.
A lot of those companies operate on a pretty thin bottom line. That's just reality.
Or no bottom line.
And to have a quarter point impact the business, to your point, Kenny, what would a $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 ransom attack do?
What would a $50,000 do?
Yeah.
I heard a great tip in there that I've been hanging on to for a bit though. If I kind of go back and go, maybe I was sort of smart and I set myself up a Gmail, but files get to a point where I've just got too many files, right? So I'm not going to be able to store them all online. And then quite frankly, I need to carry them, some of them around where I might not have internet, right? So I can carry them on my laptop or I can carry them on like a flash drive or an external drive. And I thought the tip you gave was a really great one is run antivirus like on your laptop and then plug in your hard drive, right? Like after the fact, right? So if you're keeping files, even like basics of like keeping your files separate from your operating system, your laptop, your great big square desktop, whatever you use, and then doing checks before you plug things in.
And you know how many people are going to do that?
Right.
Well, and I think it's also worthwhile pointing out, depending on where the business is at, you can get different levels of antivirus tools. Yeah. Sure, they're going to cost a little more than a basic antivirus, but they're going to do continuous scanning and monitoring for you. So there's different levels. So you don't, I haven't scanned my computer in the last 6 weeks, or I haven't scanned my computer in the last 6 months, or whatever it might be. depending on, again, your risk aversion, there's different tools that can take a lot of the stress of antivirus, which, again, I'll stress, antivirus is only one layer of protection. There's many layers of protection. So having a good business grade, and I would say it's something to invest in, that layer of protection, a good business grade antivirus tool, an MDR, managed detection and response tool, or XDR, which is extended detection and response.
What do those mean? What are those?
So managed means it's being looked at. It means you don't have to look at it. It means there's people and or systems monitoring it for you on your behalf. There's a SOC, there's a security operations center where they're keeping tabs on things and it's looking for abnormal behavior. Antivirus back in the day, it knew what let's say a Trojan horse virus was, and it's looking for it. Hey, I'm looking for a Trojan horse virus. Where is it? Where is it? I want to see it. This is a very basic generic example. So this is by no means technically
the one that everyone understands, right? Because everyone's gotten that from Norton antivirus or one of these ones where you're like, whoa, stop, right? And you're like, oh my God, like, what do I do with this thing, right? So yeah.
But modern antivirus that's MDR, XDR level, it's not just looking for the specific threat, it's also monitoring abnormal behavior. So-and-so on your team always logs in between the hours of this and this from this IP, which is in this location, whatever that looks like. Hey, so-and-so just logged in a totally different location, flag that. That's not normal. So, and that's just one example, but it's looking for activity in your network and on your devices that's not normal, and that's where that managed detection and response comes in. It's looking for things, and it will be able to lock other components down instantly when it sees things until somebody like a TLC Solutions or an internal IT team can come along and verify. No, that was supposed to happen. They are actually on vacation, and they logged in while they were on vacation. So yeah, that's normal. But there's different levels. So as a business, I think I would candidly say at any size, a business should look at having business grade antivirus. Now, small startup, it may not be a reality and that's fine, but just have something. But as soon as you can in your business, make sure cybersecurity is prioritized as an operational expense. Most businesses, it's not. It's just not. Which again,
10%. The report that I read as well said that most big companies spend at least 10 to 15% of their expenditure on security now, which I would say in little businesses that's crippling.
It's not realistic,
it's not a thing. Yeah,
and that's why I say go to somebody. TLC could be this person, and we can give you something that's at least tailored, and we'll give you whatever that level of protection you can afford for your business.
Right.
We'll obviously say best class or best in class would be you should at least have these things in place. Can you work towards that? But here's the minimums. You got to have these things in place.
I think that's where I'm going to is like what I've heard from you. You know, like, and Kenny, you're saying it from the other side, right? Which is, you know, like plugging in a hard drive, unplugging a hard drive. And you're like, how many people are going to do that? And then, you know, kind of this 10 to 11%, how many companies can spend this? But I think the point is, you know, because I think net what you've been saying here is the way that we've looked at this stuff in the past, it's not the way we look at it. It's not the same game anymore, right? Like you know, to be frank, we were before we were worried about burglars and thieves and pickpockets, right? And now, you know, it's like car stealing in neighborhoods, right? They actually tell you, don't go outside. It's organized mafia. You're better off letting them steal the car, you know, and not getting injured, right? Because this is mafia. These are not teenagers taking your car for a joyride anymore. I think the only part of that analogy is these are not teenagers taking your cyber account for a joyride anymore. Like these guys, they want it all. And so you kind of like need to change your habits to make sure that you're accounting for that stuff, I think, is what I hear. Yeah. Like my brain is going through our shit now, Kenny.
Well, I'm trying to get onto my antivirus on my computer and I can't. It's starting to stress me out.
Yeah.
Because now I probably got someone
I do
for 175 days.
I like, we have 370 episodes, and I do keep those external. So we have them on the cloud, but I have a backup, and I carry it, but it's not plugged in.
Well, and it's a great example,
So
Phil. So great effort and great initiative by you. It's stored in the cloud, but you also have a physical backup. It's a great idea. It's a fantastic idea. Now, how often do you do it? Once a week, once a month? What does that look like? But it's a great idea. It's not a very intrusive or time-consuming step to make sure you've got a safe copy of your data. And it's a good thing to do. An external hard drive, a 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, whatever hard drive, they're coming down in price. They're reasonable. And if you're a small startup and that's all you can do from protection is making sure you are holding on to a copy of your data because you've got a secret recipe or IP or whatever it is that you want to make sure that doesn't get out to the world, it's a great step for a starting up business. Absolutely recommend that. So good on you.
Well, I think I don't think I started there. I just thought I'd be emotionally wrecked if I lost all of our data. That's all. Like, there's nothing proprietary in our podcast, but even then, I really wouldn't I wouldn't want to lose it, right? So
no, it's great. I mean,
but it's a serious pain in the ass. Like, so if anyone's wondering, it's a pain in the ass, right? Like, I back it up once a month, right? Like, that's when I do it, right? But it is a royal pain in the ass. I won't lie, but I won't lose it, right? Like, I've had that actually happen with family photos. I used to back up our family photos. I don't put those on the cloud. So I'm one of those, I don't know, I think I'm a nut, but I think I have like 3 different, kind of like rolling versions of hard drives with our family photos that go back 20, 30 years now, right? So, do you know what I mean? Like, but I've lost one of those drives, and in there, I think I lost like 6 months worth of photos, and you kind of go like,
well, and let me give you an example. I want to give somebody props. Mohit McLaren from SGS ran into him at Food Pro, and we were just chatting about IoT, which is the Internet of Things, and just cybersecurity and everything. And he has taken his home system to a setup that some businesses don't even have. He's segmented, which is a fancy word for separating his network at home. And he's got 2 different routers. He's got all of his IoT devices, like light switches and light bulbs and all that kind of stuff, all running through one router. And then he's got his home data and email and everything running through a different router, because he knows and he understands that the vulnerabilities that are built in potentially, unfortunately, to some of those IoT devices. He doesn't want somebody to come through an IoT device to get into his home network. So, I mean, how far do you want to take this? How far does anyone want to take this? But that kind of mindset, I applaud him first and foremost, because that's absolutely fantastic. That rivals my home setup. So kudos to him. But it's those kinds of things that need to be thought about. The more things that are connected to the internet, if it's connected to the internet, it's a way in. And you can't control the vulnerability of that light switch and that company that installed that light switch that is now connected to your Wi-Fi that could be a way in, right?
No, I'm not going to sleep, Mike.
Seriously, I don't have any of that stuff. I'm not getting that stuff.
Candidly, I don't have any of that in my house either. No, it's different reasons, but yeah, no, very similar.
No, nobody's going to say, what's that person or Siri and all these other people you call? I don't call nobody. Phil Chang, I see you. You got that Amazon shit or whatever the hell it is.
Well, and segmenting, if there's one piece of advice that I could give to any, especially manufacturing, because most manufacturing has some sort of production environment and or equipment that's connected to the internet, whether that's through the OEM who's monitoring it or data collection or whatever it might be. If it's connected to the internet, it's a door in, it's a way in, it's an attack vector. Here's a technical term for you. But what we always recommend is segmenting. As Phil looks around, they're watching.
Seriously.
Because I like IoT, right? So it's
awesome. It's powerful stuff,
right? So
it's great stuff. I mean, the freedom, the convenience, the all of that it does is awesome. It's just knowing the implications. But so again, segmenting anyone with a production environment, segment the production equipment away from the business critical information data and network. You can segment, you can use, there's ways, I won't get into the technicalities, but there's ways to segment networks so that if something comes in through a production piece of equipment, it's not going to get access to your company's critical data or your backups or things like that. So those are that's if there's any one tip for a business with a production environment or different networks. It's like the fish tank, right? The example that I use. If you have that, remember that massive fish tank? Do you ever have that when you were a kid? It was like the size of a wall and it had hundreds of fish in it and a beautiful aquarium, right? If that's your network and you've got all these different fish and plants and everything in the tank and the filter goes, well, there's a potential every fish in the tank dies if you don't catch it soon enough, right? Yeah. But if rather than one massive tank, you've got a bunch of smaller tanks and something happens in a smaller tank, it's not going to affect the other tanks. They're going to be fine. And the impact of that one tank going down is different than the impact of one massive tank going down. So think of your network as an aquarium, and it's potentially better. Maybe it doesn't look as cool, but it's realistically better to have a bunch of smaller tanks than one massive tank.
I think I'm taking down all my IoT and then going out to get another router.
That's what you should be doing.
Oh, okay. All
fun
right.
Stuff. It's fun stuff. And I think the big thing is it doesn't have to be scary. It could be an internal IT team. I think the biggest piece, and this is what I've said in many different presentations recently in talks, is just be aware and go find out, right? And how many layers of protection do you have in place? Are they working? Are your backups verified? Do you know that it's backing up critical data? I've heard horror stories of backups being set up and different folders being added over time, and eventually you learn to go restore from a backup and you realize the data you want isn't actually being backed up, right? So like verify backups as a basic step. I mean, there's I could get one of our technical team members and you could go forever in talking about all the different layers that could be done, but just start asking the questions and know the answers. That's probably a great place to start.
I really love that. And I'm really glad. I've learned a lot already. Like,
awesome.
Literally, we could do this all day.
That's the thing, though, right?
Holy crap! Like,
good. We didn't even talk about AI. Holy smokes!
Yeah. I know.
Okay, that's the next one. You'll come back on.
All right. I'll tell you about Technology and this cool, fun One Hub thing that we're building, which is a ton of fun, utilizing AI and process automation, eliminating manual work and freeing up productivity.
Well, you got the You Book Me thing. Just book another episode for August sometime.
Done. I can do that. Happy to do that. Love talking to you guys.
I think where we're getting is I think on the podcast there are a bunch of folks that we would like to have back regularly, and I think you're one of them, because I just don't think
I'm honored. Thank you.
Security is one of those things that
it doesn't get talked about enough. It gets talked about too much after the fact, Phil.
It's almost like a malpractice because we just don't do it, right?
Exactly.
Like you kind of close your eyes and you just think it can't happen to me, and yet like all the stats point to
it's going to happen to
4 people. It's going to happen to, right? So like
stats I pulled from 2021, bingo, you're bang on.
Right.
1 in 4 small businesses was attacked in 2021 in Canada. Now that's 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Now then,
what's the number now? And unfortunately, the stats they're not that great because it's hard to keep current stats. So unfortunately, it's only legacy stats from a few years ago. But yeah, if it's 1 in 4, the presentations I gave in Alberta, I said, how many people in the audience know of a business directly, either within your business or a friend's business that's been attacked by cyber? And pretty much every hand goes up. And it's like, if that's not inspiring to make sure you have the layers of protection in place, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, what is that?
We haven't gotten into any of the fun stuff either. Like if you think of like, so I read this thing that like is borderline conspiracy theory, but like, well, you think of this war, Ukraine-Russia war, right? There are a lot of Russian hackers out there. And, I read this paper that suggested that basically they've just said, go ham, right? So if the world is your oyster, as long as you're not attacking Russia's allies, go nuts and go crazy, right? So, and it suggested a correlation between like some of the bigger hacks in the last kind of like year and a half, you know, to Russian hackers, right? So you kind of go, sort of conspiracy theory, and we don't.
It isn't though.
But it isn't, right? Like,
it isn't.
Still a weapon of war. It's like,
I'd like to have a more agnostic view of cyber criminals. That you know what, it could be that 14-year-old kid next door that has next level IT skills, and they figured out how to hack into this thing that they stumbled across. Like, sure, there's some better known state or larger threat actors or actual organizations, and people know who they are, and governments know who they are. I mean, it could come from anywhere. So I worry more about, okay, I can't control where it's coming from, and I think
I can control how much I get hurt, though.
Right.
I think that's really the trick.
Can't control getting attacked.
Hurt, but a bandage, a bump, a bruise is much better than a contusion, something broken, lacerations.
Yeah.
Like I think that's really what it comes down to.
I think that's where we started, right? Is how many companies go under because they got hacked, right? Because they just can't afford it, right? So it's not a bump or bruise; it's a termination. It's a flat line. It's like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, if you're just starting up, you're already in it. Talk to Mike. Talk to his crew. Would not be the worst idea. How about chat? I mean,
chats are free. That's the best part.
Exactly. At least get an idea, right?
He's a nice guy. Got a great team.
Seriously,
he's pretty fun to talk to. So, like,
it's not that bad to talk to. So it's not like the worst.
You're leaving this podcast not feeling nearly as much alarm as you did in, say, minute 20 or 21.
Love that. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Don't freak out. It's gonna be
unless you have IoT devices like I do, and then about minute 45, you're going, fuck my house. Like,
they're everywhere. Oh my God, what do I do? There's steps. There's lots of steps.
I'm just checking to make sure my updates all got done and everything's working on this fucking computer now.
What did you say? 178 days? Is that what you said? 170?
Christ.
Kenny's not even sure if you're you and I'm me now.
I don't know what the hell's going on anymore.
Don't get me started. I have a soapbox on that. Holy smokes. In this day and age, you don't know.
You don't know. And I've seen some stuff in the last couple of days that, some of the videos they're producing, the ones make me laugh, but not. The McDavid, basically, going through the hockey game. Like, I'm thinking, like, seriously?
Yeah.
First time I thought, why is he being such an asshole?
We've had enough video recorded on this podcast right now that
I know
any one of us, all three of us, could be recreated with AI, voice, picture, facial expressions, everything. That is reality. That's today. Wrong. That is now. That is if people don't know that is something to know. That is reality.
I started because I do a little AI thing for the kids in my college class, right? Because I think it's wrong to not embrace it and kind of show them what it can be. But
Bingo.
I've been teaching them versions of what you're supposed to look for, what models are out there, what, all those sort of things that you need to know. And when I got to the deep fake kind of tech out there, part of my brain was like, hey, for fun, I'm going to go and kind of record some stuff so they can kind of see. And when I got to the site, I was like, I can't do it. I'm chicken. Like, I just can't. I don't want to volunteer for this. Like, I don't know even. So I did put down the slide and said, look, there's kind of like 4 or 5 of these weird deep fake sites that I'm not even sure should be allowed to be out there. But in case you want to go check it out and you have enough courage to do it, knock yourself out. I chickened out. Like, I literally bailed because I was like,
Well, and I heard this the other day, and I think it's a fabulous idea. I'm telling more people about it, especially with what can be replicated by voice just over phone, or if it's a video message or whatever it might be. I would recommend every family, especially from a kid standpoint, have a safe word. Don't tell anybody your safe word. But in this day and age, that's a good step to have. It really is, because you don't know when that call comes in and it sounds like mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or whoever it is. it's going to be convincing. I guarantee it. And we're still, fortunately, just at the dawn of this and at the start of this, but it's happening. It is happening. So
it's happening fast and furious, but it's not even just, it's happening even on old school rudimentary. Today I got, a text from someone I don't know. Hey, how you feeling? Like, who the fuck are you? Who would you ask?
That was me, you jerk. Like, why?
Well, I know you're not. That's the thing. If I don't know the number, just so we're all clear, so anybody listening, if I don't know the number, right into block we go.
I block more emails and
I block so much stuff, it's obscene.
I figure if that person really needs to get a hold of me, they probably have my number and they can call me. And
100%. But even then, like, again, if it comes up with no name,
no,
I suggest you find a different way, because I ain't answering.
Antenna up, radar high,
100% right away.
Biggest thing that would be my biggest thing to stress in this lovely new cybersecurity world we live in is awareness. It's the number one thing. Be aware. Cyber aware. Number one thing.
Mike Nunn.
Mike Nunn, thanks very much.
Thank you, guys. This has been fun. Again.
Yeah.
Love talking to you guys.
Fun. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you just book your times now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We should find a regular time for you to come on.
Yeah. He's got the thing there.
I got it. I'll book myself in. You guys good tomorrow? How's tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
You booked up?
No, the rest of this week's a train wreck.
Darn it. Okay.
I'll find something. The next 3 weeks are a train wreck.
Yeah, complete train wreck.
Maybe like a month from now.
We'll find something.
Book something in August, and if you want, book something again in September, October. You can book a couple. It's not like we're not going to talk to you. So
yeah.
Love it. And I actually think BC Food and Beverage, I think I've got a cybersecurity presentation coming up in September, I think.
Good.
If I remember correctly. I hope I'm not misspeaking. I know this is on record. This might maybe we can cut that if it's not true, but I'm pretty sure it's in September.
I'll edit it. Yeah. And then we'll ask Sumner too, because we like pushing their stuff. So if you've got one there, then we'll push it, because that's important. So
I'll confirm and let you know.
You should even see if even when CHFA is in town, Phil. I mean, it might be a good one for people here. Like, if you don't do anything with CHFA, you probably should as well.
Oh, and AI, really quick plug. Rocky Ozaki from Now of Work. Awesome AI presentation. CHFA, loved it. Doing great stuff there. So
I saw the notes from it. It looked really good.
Yeah, it's all good, man.
Really good.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay,
awesome,
go make your systems okay. Go protect the family. Go do something.
Okay, I'll figure something out.
I got to run antivirus. I got lots of pressure right now.
Back up your data. Go run.
I got lots of stuff going on.
Amazing.
It's going to be okay.
Mike.
You bet. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kenny. Thanks, Phil.
Have a great night.
Soon. You bet.
Okay.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Ciao.
That was cool. Scary.
I can't get my antivirus to run. Now it's saying my passwords are wrong, and I just recreated a password. Like, now I'm off.
Oh,
hell.
Okay. Maybe ask Tanner to give you a hand.
Oh my God.
Hey guys, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody.